Visit EnglishForEconomists.com and learn about our English classes for anybody who needs to speak about the economy. Hello and welcome to podcast number 13. I am Alan Robert and I am your host at English for Economists, the English podcast lessons for non-native English speakers who need to talk about the economy. These are not lessons about the economy. No, my only goal is to teach you practical day-to-day vocabulary that will help you read, write, and speak English better. And our topic today is immigration. Let's take a look at our vocabulary. Migration, the action of moving from one country to another. A migrant is the person who moves from one place to another, especially in order to find work or better living conditions. Okay, migration, that's the act of moving from one country to another. Immigration, different but related. Immigration, that's the action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country. An immigrant is a person who comes to live permanently. A migrant is somebody who moves temporarily to a new country. An immigrant, somebody who will settle and stay permanently. So migrants can become immigrants. So these are two related words, but fundamentally they're different. Refugee. You can have a political refugee or an economic refugee. A refugee is a person who has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, persecution, natural disaster, or, in the case of economic refugees, people who are escaping poverty and looking for more opportunities. Undocumented immigrant. An undocumented immigrant are foreign nationals who lack the proper authorization to be in their new country. Undocumented immigrants. Repatriation. Repatriation is to return someone to their own country. Sometimes this is against their wishes. A related word is deportation, which means to transport someone to their home country. So repatriation, deportation, that means removing somebody from one country and sending them back to their country of origin. Remittances. Well, in this context, a remittance is the money that migrants or immigrants send back to their home country, usually to family. In some countries, remittances are a sizable part of the country's GDP. For example, the Philippines, countries in Central America, El Salvador, for example, Guatemala. Remittances, that's the money migrants and immigrants send back home. Border. The legal line that separates one country from another. Border. Multiculturalism. Multiculturalism. Well, that's the presence of several distinct cultural or ethnic groups within a society. Multiculturalism. Perhaps the best way to illustrate the meaning of this vocabulary is to tell you a little bit about myself, because I am an immigrant. I am originally Canadian, but I came to the country of Peru in 1995. I was not planning to migrate to Peru, but I ended up meeting my wife, so I decided to stay and I began to work. Now, life as a migrant is challenging, or was challenging for me. I needed to learn Spanish, and quickly, in order to settle in. But the challenges were exciting, and I eventually fell in love with the country, and I decided to formally immigrate. I applied for citizenship, and I was accepted. Peruvian friends would ask me, "Alan, why did you immigrate to Peru?" In fact, it was a little odd because at that time, not many people were immigrating to Peru at all. In fact, Peruvians had been migrating to other countries in record numbers. Some of them, in fact, went to Canada, my own country, as refugees running from political violence and terrorism in the late 1980s. Besides the political refugees, There were many more economic migrants who were tired of the hyperinflation and lack of job opportunities. Some followed the formal immigration process and they got the proper papers. Others, the undocumented immigrants, did not have the proper paperwork, like visas, for example. Sometimes immigration officials in the host country will send the undocumented immigrants back to their original home. They deport them. They repatriate them. They send them back across the border. Once migrants and immigrants begin to work abroad, and by abroad I mean in another country, they often send money back home to family. In other words, they send remittances. Experts recognize that managing a legal immigration into the country offers many positive economic benefits. And it also changes the culture of the new country in a process called multiculturalism. Okay, friends, that was a very general dialogue, but I think you were able to hear most of our vocabulary in a context that I hope helps you understand and, more importantly, to remember these new words. Let me give them to you one last time. Migration, the action of moving from one country to another. Immigration, the action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country. Refugee, a person who has been forced to leave their country. Undocumented immigrant, these are foreign nationals who lack the proper authorization. They do not have the papers. Repatriation, that's to return someone to their own country, sometimes against their wishes. A related word is deportation. Remittances, well, remittances is the money that migrants or immigrants send back to their home country. Border, well, the border is the legal line that separates one country from another. Multiculturalism, that's the presence of several distinct cultural or ethnic groups within a society. And, well, we have strength and wealth in numbers and diversity. So, multiculturalism is usually a very, very positive thing for a country. That's all for today. This podcast is new. Share it with your friends. Please write to me. I'd love to hear from you. Alan@EnglishForEconomists.com. Maybe recommend a future class that we can have on this podcast. I am open to ideas. Well, until next time, this is Alan Robert at English for Economists, wishing you a fantastic day. Take care.